I was really attracted by his eyes. Slow, profound, enormous, I don't know. I think that to this day they attract me. It's just that he looks at me in a softened manner. He doesn't look at me as much as he used to when he held me with his gaze. But his demeanour and desire to contain, to listen, as though he felt that I was coming to port, his tenderness, his huge tenderness, his delicate tenderness, his incommensurable tenderness, also attracted me.
Look, we met so casually that I can't pinpoint exactly the first moment of meeting, but I do remember that I made the comment to a colleague at work that I'd met a luminous woman with brilliance. I had the impression of having seen something quite unique in her. And then, well, it all has to do with a vital enthusiasm, something a bit crazy, bordering on the magical, right? Well, I got separated after a marriage crisis of about 3 years. It had been a situation of total stagnation, and the bond was totally paralyzed after 7 years of marriage. To be honest, I felt abandoned and forsaken, knowing that our efforts wouldn't solve anything.
I'd been married for 7 years, and I'd say that things definitely got worse during the 3rd year of our marriage. I was an almost totally different character from my previous partner. I was having a really bad time, fully classifiable under the word bad. We had total and permanent non-communication, both in physical as well as in verbal terms. I mean, in other words, we were a complete mismatch. It seemed as though the fact that he was a difficult person and I'm a complicated person were compounded. So in consequence, we became detestable individuals when we were together. There are 2 areas of conflict in our relationship which are tremendously difficult to manage. Conflicts that could even end up separating us one day. I know that Lister cannot even tolerate the word separation, but the first of these areas is that we have different vital existential postures regarding the education of our children. This was evident from the first moment that we met.
This is the outcome of 2 different life stories, different upbringings, but it also pops up in our daily lives, you know, in fundamental things regarding contemporary life, ranging all the way from fast food to life habits to austerities that are required at a subconscious level.
Lister has educated the children of his first marriage in his own way, and I have educated mine in my way. So we have like 2 systems in one. We live in a constant state of trying to balance out these 2 different ways of educating our children. Well, now I feel that we're finally succeeding to accomplish this. I mean, in other words, I can remember moments of much great pain and difficulty during the first few years of our relationship. More than now, since we've gained experience. The kids are older, and I think that they've begun to adapt themselves to these games of differences. I believe that this is an area of conflict that's extremely serious. At any rate, the easiest and most manageable territory of all is that of our own 3 children. Somehow, since these are the kids of us both, we just have to come to terms as their parents. Now, the other conflict is even more complicated. The other conflict has to do with trust. In other words, I have had many many moments when I've run into a crisis of confidence in Lister. It's true that he brings his own baggage of experience in life, his own history, and that he's had many previous relationships. Even when we met, he was having relationships with other women. So when I entered his life, he wasn't alone, though that was something that I was not aware of at the time. All that bothers me quite a bit.
Pelagia experiences the fear that the occasions that make me go out with some other woman might catch fire again, as though my going out with her was not because I was deeply in love with her, but just because I felt lonely and I'd rather be with someone. These are fears that are not superficial, but really terrifying for her.
There have been many years when, from time to time, I find myself in a crisis. Then the whole thing just explodes since I'm not relaxed and at ease, not fully trusting that he loves me. And you see, that's what's important, that should be at the basis of our relationship as a couple. And that trust is lacking. I feel that I'm constantly walking on the edge of a cliff, that some other woman is going to pop up on the scene all of a sudden. I keep saying to myself that ours is a strong relationship. That's what he always says. If ours is a strong relationship, why do you worry about it? Nevertheless, I worry. Always. For me, this is an area of conflict, capable of turning into jealousy at any moment. And it's a torment.
You know, I think that part of it is because we've not shared similar experiences together earlier. It's like a distrust of the unknown, yeah? But it also has to do with not trusting enough in the strength of our bond, in the power of our bond throughout all these years. It's like a fear which no evidence is enough to quash.
It's a situation in which I believe that I've tried everything. I've tried different ways of positioning myself before the relationship, different ways of living our day-to-day lives, but certain factors can't be avoided. Lister is a man who works a lot. I mean, his job means that he comes home late and we have little time together. The fact that he's a psychiatrist carries its own weight, of course, because obviously he treats patients constantly, and 90% of his patients are women. And there is a relationship of intimacy that inevitably generates a bond. And all this has an effect. And when you like to be close, when you're sensitive, well, we have a lot of nice things about us, but this point is like poison.
There can be two extremes in a relationship. You see, over to one end there is indifference, but over to the other end there might be overreaction, which is why these fears don't subside. And this is a problem for both of us. It's something that causes me great pain, since I am seen as untrustworthy. And naturally, to be seen as untrustworthy is something that hurts me.
We've been together for 12 years. For quite some time in the beginning, we invested a lot of time in sorting things out between the two of us, and this means at least that we had a significant basis of communication. I feel that when a conflict arises now, our communications have obviously been snarled up, as happens to all couples.
I think really that the problem is that I don't tolerate distance well. The conflicts put us at a distance, and I can hardly bear the situation. On the other hand, conflicts arise when our interactions are at a low ebb, and then when we actually see each other, we fall short of meeting halfway. I mean, this has just been typical of our relationship. To solve our problems, I trust in physical closeness, but unfortunately, that closeness can become a bit forced. You know, it's a bit desperate. I go and touch her, but she's more of a verbal person. She needs a more talkative relationship.
At the beginning of our relationship, my inclination was always to seek harmony at all costs, but about a year ago, I said to myself, this isn't good enough. So now, when a conflict emerges, I adopt a firmer line and then wait to see what'll happen. In the end, Lister comes to me, he seeks me out, and then we talk. It's almost impossible not to overcome a conflict if you really love the other person.
The marriage involves the two of us, but it is sufficient for one of us to leave his or her part undone, for water to begin to seep into the ship.
I feel the same way. I think that both of us invest a lot, but I suppose we do it differently. I mean, there's no doubt that both of us support our relationship, but from different personal standpoints. I'm a terribly sensitive person, and I realised that ours would be a problem marriage, even before we got married. But nevertheless, I felt committed to the point of getting married a second time. However, things kept getting worse. The atmosphere was strained until I felt sick. I resorted to a psychologist who told me, listen, what you have here is a marriage problem. That is what's at the root of your physical malaise.
The business of building a new relationship as a couple is a long and difficult process, and it's also an individual reconstruction process. You see, Pelagia and I, we lived in different time scales. It was as if they were, staggered in time. On the one hand, Pelagia came full of energy and ready to build a new life with me as a couple. And I came from my own earthquake-ridden fields, having abandoned dreams and aspirations, and having to progressively regain them again, much more slowly.